Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I could be better.
Fair to
why
middling.
is it every time? Yeah, why is it that every time we do a podcast, it just pisses rain outside? I know it all. People are gonna say, "Oh, Sean's talking about the weather again. He doesn't like the rain. We get it." But I feel like it's every time we do a podcast, it's raining. In your case, you have snow on the ground.
Yeah, I don't. It's not on the ground yet. I mean, it's crazy. So this weather's so crazy. It's 42 degrees according to my watch, and it's fully snowing. It looks like I'm in a snow globe outside. I just showed Sean the window next to me here. It's bizarre. This weather is totally bizarre. I woke up this morning. I had to climb up out onto the roof because I'm getting solar installed, and I had to hold the ladder for the dude so he could get up onto my secondary roof.
See, that's weird to me because they get paid to do that. He should have a crew. You by virtue of you paying them, you should not have to do a damn thing.
No, that's totally true. And I have a gigantic ladder in my front yard that we could have propped up and he could have climbed up himself. But still, like safety, I don't want to have someone climb all the way up like this 30-plus foot extension ladder. And it would need all 30 feet to get all the way up there. And I would have had to sit there and help him lift that ladder up, which is really heavy. So at the end of the day, it was easier for me to go out on my bar roof and help him get up onto the upper roof.
I'd have been inside by the fire with some tea or some hot chocolate, sipping that, going, boy, that sucks. Watching
Sucks
them outside.
to be you. Sucks to be you. Yeah. Hopefully we're getting in right before the solar rates change, which is not great. For PG&E has won some battle, and so now your solar is not going to be worth as much if you get it installed after a certain date, which is coming up. So the palatial estate here in Lake of the Pines, LOP as we call it, LOP. We call them LOP cops. That's the security system here. All the guys driving around. We're going to add solar, which is a good thing because the power bill's killing us. Sean, we got some stuff to talk about.
Do we?
So first up, if you're listening here on the podcast, number one, thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. Number two, I'm horrible at Prize Picks, and which if you're listening to the show on the audio side, you've already heard me explain how bad I am at Prize Picks, but I'm having a good time with it. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, please. Subscribe. Give us a rating and review anywhere you listen. Jump on board with the Kings Beat. We're going to have a new happy hour this coming month, and I'm sure we'll get another awesome guest. Sam Amick was spectacular this last week, and we'll do more of those, especially as we get into playoff season. I'm watching it. It's really snowing now. I mean, no joke snow. Like it's for those listeners. Let's see.
Oh, look at this. Oh, it's a winter wonderland outside.
It's a snow globe outside.
Yeah.
Wild stuff. All right, Sean.
Yep.
The Sacramento Kings I don't want to use the word, but they blanked the bed.
No, they shit the bed. You can use the word. I'll say it. They completely did it.
They did it. They
made a mess.
Sean. They did it. They shit the bed.
Yeah. I like the fact that, just because I'm petty.
You are
call
petty.
Me Tom Petty.
Yeah.
I had to remind some folks as if, people were coming in. They're like, oh, it's clinch miss. How dare you say words like that?
Clinch miss. And then today they're calling it Hana clinch.
No, that's funny, actually. That's actually really funny. Very creative. No, I mean, look, fan, you do what you do. I'm not blaming any of them. I'm talking about some of the people around the organization, some of the people who media. I mean, we saw a dude. I think I'll put him on blast. Matt George wore his wedding suit, get up
tuxedo?
suit. It's a tuxedo. There we are. It wasn't a tuxedo though. It was a suit he wore at his wedding. Is what I'm trying to say. You wore a suit, bro. You wore a suit.
I wore a suit. Man. Well, I wore a suit. I mean, if it's a clinch day, I'm going to wear a suit. For the playoffs, I'll wear a suit.
Okay.
I mean, you got to remember, I wore a suit
game.
For 6 years. Like
from our standpoint, yeah, no, you did. Yeah, that's fair point. That's fair point. Anyway, I just illustrate this point as like people were putting on their best
Sunday
and like,
best.
oh, this is and like it's funny. I'm not trying to like rain on the parade because rewind to that Saturday game, the win over Utah he went over Utah. Sorry, it's starting to blend. You close out that back-to-back, nice 2 wins there, and you kind of right the ship a little bit, even though Utah didn't have Lauri Markkanen, a couple other players, but Walker Kessler was a beast, and they were a formidable opponent, and they took you down to the wire. You were able to close out very nicely again. No DeAaron Fox, that's fine. So you're feeling pretty good about yourselves. And like if you had won and you needed a little bit of help from other people in the standings, you would have clinched at that point. And afterwards, like the sea of people trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the clinch scenarios now since they didn't get the help they needed? And then it falls to the Minnesota Warriors game, and of course, Minnesota beats the Warriors. So I was kind of like, during those, I was like, who cares? Like, this team is already a playoff team, realistically. We know it. If you can do it on your home floor and have the opportunity to do it on your home floor, that's where it becomes the big, huge story, because then it's festive. Then the fans can celebrate it. And that's all that really matters. The NBA is not Major League Baseball. They don't go out and pop champagne bottles after clinching playoff spots and divisions and things like that. So it's still a big deal. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm saying from a team standpoint, it's just another game. They already know. They've already wrapped their heads around the fact that they're a playoff team, and I think most fans have as well. Mm-hmm. I think some of the media should, and I use the word should. But yeah, man, they just it was kind of funny to. I felt bad for the fans, so that part I set aside, but we had to, even Gary Gerald and I looked at each other, we're like, boy, we've seen enough moments in Kings history to where this ain't a given. You had 3 opportunities to clinch last night. You're playing a team that, I don't mean to pat myself on the back here, but I would be deathly afraid of to see in the playoffs. And last night just all but vindicated and validated that belief, vindicated myself and validated that belief. And we're like, no, this, like, nothing goes well for the Kings in Sacramento. Nothing's easy in Sacramento. So to have the arrogance that they were going to clinch was kind of funny to see that didn't happen, because everyone's like, oh, if they win, we're going to go out and we're going to celebrate. We're going to go do this. I was like, if they don't win, you should still do the same thing, because they're still a fucking playoff team. So go do it. Enjoy. They didn't need to beat the Timberwolves. You could have still enjoyed the night, and they didn't. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to turn in. I can't do it now. I still went out. I had a great time, and I nearly lost my voice. James, how are you?
Yeah, like I didn't understand all of the, oh, come on, let's not clinch. Wait till you do it at home. Wait. I've covered this team for too long. I know that big games are tough. Actually, before I continue with that, first of all, Brendan is away on personal issues.
Oh yeah, forgot to mention that.
So our friend Brendan is not with us today. He's off due to personal reasons, and we're just
he's good though. Everyone, he's good.
He's good.
The surgery will go well, and it will. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
He's not in a situation. He's got a personal situation off the pod that he's got to go be part of today. So, okay. So my thoughts. I didn't get it. Like, if your team can clinch, they need to clinch. Like, why people were so excited. Oh, no, we want them to clinch at home. We want them to clinch at home. And then I had asked Mike Brown, like, the importance of a game like this, because it's going to feel different. This is a playoff game. Like, that last night was a playoff game. And the Kings did not live up to their standard of play at all. Like, I don't know what happened, but that wasn't the same team that we've watched all year long. And we can say, oh, to Minnesota. No. The ball movement wasn't there. The three-point shooting wasn't there. The entirety of the game was off and funky and weird, and they did not step up to the challenge. That's it. Like, I don't want to – there's no excuses for what happened. But I am going to say this, Sean.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knew how to act last night. Like we
no
got
one
to
could
that,
act right.
Well, no. We got to that first quarter, and, like, the buzz, like, there's all this fun buzz. They everyone's standing up and cheering like for the opening, and Scott Moak does your starting five for your Sacramento Kings. Like, everything's cool. 45 seconds into the game, I thought we were in a morgue. That place went deathly silent. Like, holy cow, you could hear a pin drop. Like, it was LeBron James in his first television commercial and George Gervin going, "Come on, little fella." That's what it was. It was like this entire fan base that had waited forever, like, got awkward. And then the team got awkward. And then things got awkward. And the whole game felt awkward. And there was the only time I thought, oh, they got a shot was when they got free cookies. And somebody missed a pair of free throws. And they got free cookies, and everyone's cheering and celebrating free cookies, which is just, I know it's a $5 cookie, but still totally bizarre. So to me, I just felt like, good, you got it out of the way. Because what you don't want is that game in game one of the playoffs. Because that is exactly what you have to avoid. The awkward moment, the silence, everyone from top to bottom getting stuck in a moment and not knowing what to do. And that's what I felt. That, like, maybe I'm crazy.
And you're convinced that that's out of the way? Because I think the only thing that I would be convinced of is that the building, fast forward to the playoffs, the building won't be that quiet during the playoffs. I don't care who you're playing.
I think that they got it out of their system. I think. Maybe not. I mean, we might have another game like that, but I don't think so. Like, I think a lesson was learned. Like, don't rely on somebody else to help carry you through it.
And you're of the belief that it was more Kings related than it was Timberwolves related. Meaning that Timberwolves...
I don't think the Timberwolves were just so good that the Kings couldn't beat them. I didn't.
Well, to that point, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the fact that the Kings really didn't play well and they were disrupted and had a season low threes, they were 5 of 27. How do you go 5 of 27 from threes but still shoot about 46%? And you weren't blown out.
Shot higher because you could have kept going to the basket. Like, I just thought it was weird. Like, the whole thing, the whole night was weird. And it's a bummer. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a bummer. And I'm actually inclined to believe you, because I'm going to point out how Mike Brown and company all talked about how, I mean, they just overcredit the Timberwolves. They disrupted us. They took us out of our pace. We couldn't hit threes. Even the way they fought, and I'm not trying to take any credit away from the Timberwolves, because I think the Timberwolves had a huge impact in that game. I am giving them credit, but I'm going to stop short of that, because I do believe it fell on the Kings. I asked Mike Brown because we were talking. I didn't ask the question in the pregame availability. I'd like to give the person credit, but I can't remember who actually asked it, so forgive me. But somebody asked him about dealing with moments like this, and does it, the distraction of clinching and how it could become, and just little points of the season, but certainly this one here, how it could become a distraction. And obviously there's anticipation over the clinch. Some of the players will say, it's one thing, but to do it the home crowd, and you put the pressure, if you will, of trying to deliver it on the home crowd, I think it did kind of become a distraction. And I think there was a little bit of a pucker moment. And I'll even say this, there was a ton of national media in the building last night. Most media that have probably covered the Kings since the first game in Golden One Center. And I don't think that's a stretch. You didn't have enough seats for the media last night. So, what I say there too is I talked to a few of them afterwards, and I don't really feel like giving names, because one of them has been a huge believer in the Kings, and I think the Kings, by virtue of them losing that game and puckering the way that they did, and going up against a team like that, and this shouldn't have happened, but it kind of broke that guy's spirit. He's like, I'm not a believer, and it just shows you how fickle a lot of people can be with their belief in certain teams, and whether or not look, you haven't come to a game. Maybe you've come to 2 games all year, however that looks, and that's the one game you come to, and then you see that, and it's the lights turn out, right? It's like, oh, I don't believe it. Not ready for prime time. I think that's a load of crap. Like, that's not something I'm believe, but that just shows you some of the mentality of like a national media or just a media person in general. Not that that matters, but everyone has their own opinions of different teams. They should not have lost their spirit or even any belief. And if you had any belief in the Kings before, that just shows that person maybe didn't have the overall strong belief that,
or they haven't watched it.
They're not watching.
It. Yeah,
right.
And I'll say this, Sean, like the way that you and I digest a game is so different. Like I think it's funny. Like Sean and I sit next to each other. Whether Sean is on my right or on my left is from one game to the next.
Yeah, that varies. We keep it interesting.
It's totally bizarre. Like we don't move our little paper like placards that say our name. We don't move those. Someone else does. Sometimes he's on my right. Sometimes he's on my left. Sometimes I need to move the stats monitor to the left, and sometimes I need to move it to the right because Sean.
I'm a diva.
But no, it plays into the way that you and I view a game.
Right.
You view a game through a viewfinder, and I view a game through a writer's mind. And those are such different mindsets. They're totally different mindsets. So you're watching for incidents, you're watching everything, and I'm trying to feel a flow and things that stand out. And I think it's like what makes us have very different opinions when we talk about this stuff on the podcast. But I do think it's worth pointing out, like the structure of our jobs, what we do for work, completely changes the way that we view a game. And again, Sean is like, I'm like, oh, that didn't look like a foul. And Sean's like, oh no, that was a foul. Because Sean is looking closely through a viewfinder, and I'm looking from a million miles away. I'm reading body language more than anything else. Sean is reading the actual like tight shot on what's happening. But then, like, the flow of work that we do is very different. Even the final minute of a game, Sean is enjoying the final minute of a game, looking at the game through, again, a camera, while I'm sitting there frantically trying to finish stats and send an email to my phone so I can start doing 6 quick thoughts. All of these things, they're all sort of the flow of work that we do. And so I am always looking for the crowd, the feel, the like vibe that's happening. Those are things that I'm trying to take in. And I just think like our point of views are very different, which I think is unique. It's like something that you would think we're both media members, but that's not how we view things. We don't view things the same at all.
Yeah, right? And I mean, you just go down the whole row there. I think everybody looks at things differently. They're all individual people, and that's what I love about it. You know, you can have different perspectives, and you're right. Like even with, and I don't mean to make this an experience thing, but somebody who may not have covered the league as long might look at it. Oh man, the impact of this game, and it's like the impact of this game is nothing. Like they've got 8 games at the time or 7 games, whatever it was.
7 games left.
To win one,
still,
you know,
win one, and
you may not even have to. Right,
one team lose one game and you're in. Yeah,
and the players, they're just such a day-to-day type of operation that it's like, you know, hey guys, we haven't lost 3 straight. Now, you could take a broader look, which is what I did today at practice, at like just the week itself. You go from staring at a 3-game losing streak, which didn't happen because you won 2 straight, but you lose 2. Crazy schedules. That was one of those schedule losses. I feel you come back, you win 2, you kind of right the ship, and then you lose a game that obviously had some magnitude to it. And I'm not going to deny that. But in the players' minds, it's like, no, we wanted to win that game, no doubt. We wanted to reward the fans. We wanted to have the season series on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I mean, the only win we have against them is an overtime win, and all those games have been close, mind you. You know, even with me talking about how I think it's a terrible matchup, and I do, and it's not a team I'd want to see. I still feel like, you know, they could. It's possible they could win that series. I don't know that I would pick it, but they've been competitive games despite how out of funk the Kings have looked at times. And I think it's there's a lot of things that have happened, particularly in this last game, where I felt like the Kings just put a lot of pressure on themselves. I do feel that there was a distraction. I do feel that the locker room and Coach Brown lied to us in the face, which I would too if I was them, and say, no, it wasn't a distraction. We weren't distracted. We looked out of sorts. We can credit the Timberwolves. We hope we see them again, or we hope we don't. Either way. But right now, if the playoffs started today, guess who you play in the playoffs? It'd be Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, and of course, Minnesota was playing without Cat, and Anthony Edwards looked like about 70% of who he is as a player. I don't know that having Cat helps them or hurts them. It makes it scarier because he's such an offensive weapon, but he's so bad defensively, and they are so much worse defensively when he's on the court that I don't know that that is a good matchup for them to have him on the court. I'm not sure. I really like Naz Reid.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm circling Naz Reid and saying, is there a way for the Sacramento Kings to get Naz Reid in the offseason this summer?
I'm with you.
Which he's very strange. He's a fourth-year player going into his fifth season, and he does not have a restricted free agent status. Not sure what's going on there, but he can shoot the three ball. He can block shots. He can rebound somewhat, but he's big. He's strong. He's aggressive. He's physical. He's super long. Like, that's a guy that I'm circling and saying, how do I get Naz Reid on my roster for next season? But anyway, I'm looking at that team and I'm like, okay, if that's the team the Kings face, I don't know. I don't think that there's any team, like we keep talking about. There's so many different things to fear if you're the Sacramento Kings, or you can just not fear them all, because you're going to have to face somebody. And that somebody that the Kings are going to have to face has one of two things on you. Either they're much longer than you, or they're much more experienced than you. And those are your only two options. So do you want to face an experienced team, or do you want to face a super long team? And sure, there are variances within the experienced teams. Like, would you mind playing the Clippers with a broken Paul George? Maybe. But then again, like, what do you think you can do with the Clippers? The Clippers still have Kawhi. You've never played him full strength. Zubats hasn't played hardly at all in their series. They added a backup center in Plumlee. They added other pieces all over. Eric Gordon has torched the Kings for the last decade. And it seems like people, oh, yeah, I want the Clippers. Okay. The Clippers, you want the Warriors, who won the championship last year and who, like, every single one of their core group has more playoff experience than your entire team combined. Like, pick your poison. Like, the fact is, the Kings also present matchup problems for every team in the league. No one can stop the Kings. If the Kings weren't a matchup problem for every team, they wouldn't have a historically great offense. Everyone would just run something that stopped the Kings' offense, and they would be mundane, and they would lose. They wouldn't be the 3 seed. So I just, like, at this point, I would like to see them clinch. I don't care if they clinch on a day where they're sitting in Portland, drinking IPAs, or if they beat the Portland Trailblazers on Wednesday or Friday, whatever it is, they're going to get in. There's still a chance that they win 50 games. There's still a chance that they string together 3 wins in a row right here when you play Portland twice and then the Spurs. And so I'm not concerned. And I've maybe have got to the point where it's just like, I think we saw the evolution of the Kings, like even in post game, right? We saw DeAaron Fox and was almost like defiant, like 19-year-old DeAaron Fox, like, it's one game. Like, I thought that was interesting. Then we get Harrison Barnes, and he's like the veteran who gets stuck out there to, like, reason through everything with everybody. And then we get Mike Brown, and Mike Brown wanted to compliment and, like, do all these, like, Houdini moves and not, like, acknowledge the disappointment of what just happened. And then by the time we got to the locker room, I thought that's where we started to get, like, honest takes. Like, they had more time to digest it and process what had just happened. That, guys like we got Sabonis, we got Herter. Did you stick around and get someone after that?
No, I bailed after that, but I don't even think that it's a I'll use this as an example. We're talking to Domas and asking him about Timberwolves, and he says, yeah, it's a team that's got our number, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I want to explore that a little bit more. Like what is it about aside from the length, like, what do you see from this team that makes it possible that they have your number. And he's like, well, I don't even really believe that they have our number. That's what coach says. There we go. Like, there's a message and then there's how you feel. And I think, look, some guys were a little bit more eloquent and obviously acknowledging the moment. I think
that Herder was spectacular. That we wanted to do it for these fans. They deserve to have this happen here. We messed up. Like we should have been able to deliver that, and it's our bad. Like that's kind of like the message you got from him. But again, by the time we got Kevin, it was like almost an hour after the game, as opposed to literally DeAaron Fox comes in with an open wound and we're sitting there squeezing lemon juice in it from across the room with a microphone, and he just was kind of getting more and more like agitated and shutting down. Which we've seen from Fox. It's fine. And then again, I thought that Harrison was trying to reason his way through it. Like what just happened. He was trying to be the solid vet and stand up, and still it wasn't until they had enough distance from what had happened before we started getting we blew it. Our bad.
And I don't want to. It's almost like we talk out of both sides of our mouth, because even the team, it's like they acknowledge it, and there is, I feel bad for the fans we're able to do it, but at the same time, it's like, bro, it's gonna happen. One game, who cares? And like Fox, of all the people who said it, sure, you'd like them to maybe acknowledge the moment a little bit, and I think Fox eventually got there. I think later on, towards the end of his media session, he actually had a nice thought about what could have been, if you will, and he's the way that you probably should approach everything from last night, where don't belabor the point. And honestly, I think that was the reading in between the lines, where it's like, no, I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to do this. We all thought there's 3 ways to clinch, and none of them happened. The odds were in your favor, but doesn't mean that that's going to come through. And it doesn't come through, and it's like, of course, well, you go on and get the next one, whatever. It'll happen another day. Missed opportunity. But was my team distracted by it? And it possibly, I in my opinion, I think there ended up being a little bit of pressure that they didn't handle very well against a team that is the worst team you want, not the worst team, but among the worst teams you want to see in a given situation like that, to go out and win one game. So that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I think that everyone did just kind of overlook the Timberwolves as a potential team that could stomp you and that could beat you. And I apologize if I look distracted, but it is seriously snowing.
Whiteout conditions?
It's sticking. There is snow on the roofs of my neighbors' houses and on their decks. It's
wow,
in the trees.
look at that.
It is fully coming down, which is bizarre. Again, it's 42 degrees. It's not supposed to be cold enough to snow. And this isn't, what was it? It's not grapple. This is
grapple. Yeah, I learned what that was. Grapple. Yeah, man. I learned what that was.
Yeah, grapple. You brought that to the table here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, the other thing, again, I think the fans, everyone, it felt like a night where not everyone understood how to react, and I think it's a good thing. I asked Mike about it before, if it's one of those things where you guys kind of need to go through some of these things, you need to feel this, and he was like, yeah, I mean, let's get to one of the elephants in the room, Sean.
There's a couple. Yeah, I know where we're going now.
Yeah, I mean, did Mike Brown outcoach himself?
That wasn't what I was going with.
Okay, well, let's start there.
I don't
Alex
think
Lynn
he did. Do you think he did?
Alex
I see what
Lynn
you're saying.
had played 58 minutes the entire season, and 20-something of those came in the one game where Sabonis missed, and he started him against Denver. What?
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who, look, I check on Alex all the time. I'm in pregame locker room every game, and I go over and I talk to Alex. I like Alex Lynn. I hope that Alex Lynn gets another opportunity in the league. But we're game 73, and Alex has 58 combined minutes on the season, and he plays major minutes. Not major. I mean, he played, 12, 13, 14 minutes?
Did he? Was it even that much? I don't even think it was that much.
Well, I'll look.
I'll check for you. I got it right here.
Yeah.
Alex Len played 7 minutes, 7:29, and was not good.
7:29. But what did he play in the first half versus the first half? He played like 6 minutes. So it's the second half where he doesn't play that much. But and again, I'm not blaming Alex Len for what happened, but I was just confused. Like, I get it. Maybe Chimezie Metu has once again like stepped in it with the coaching staff because it feels that way. But like, Chimezie helped get you here. And right. Sean can attest, I'm not one of the guys that like, oh, I can't wait to see Chimezie Metu play every night. Like, there are things that Chimezie Metu does on a court that frustrate me. And it's not that I dislike Chimezie Metu. It's that, like the type of player, his role, how he's tried to fit into his role, how he struggled sometimes to try to do too much. Those are things that like start to frustrate. But still, I thought, why would you run Alex Len out there against Naz Reid, who's a 3-point shooting big, who likes to take guys off the dribble? He's not in any way, shape, or form a back-to-the-basket big man that you want to use Alex Len for. And I'd even say that about their team. Their team wasn't like, were they taking the Kings off the dribble? Yes, but they weren't finishing at the rim. It was a bunch of jump shots.
Right.
So I was like, why Alex
Len? It was also you didn't see Alex Len going out there during Gobert time. It wasn't like he was out there for Gobert time. It was out there for to me, it was more of a send a message, I think, where, hey, you guys haven't been good. This is what I have to resort to. I have to go to Alex Len. You know how angry it makes me that I have to go to Alex Len? That's what I would say in the locker room. That's the message he's sending is, I am so pissed off right now. I have to put Alex Len in this game. And again, we're talking 7 minutes, so I just feel like, I don't know that he outcoached himself. Position. Yeah, I just felt like he may have overthought it. Like, yeah, it might have been cute. I don't know if it was, again, I think it's more of a message to his own team. And
even the Denver game, he played 14 minutes.
Right.
Like, outside of that, Alex Len, he hasn't played 5 minutes.
And Domas was out of that game, right?
5:04. Yeah, that's a game he missed. Yeah.
Right.
And he started. He played 5:04 against Brooklyn early in the season when they bombed Brooklyn, when they crushed Brooklyn. He played 4:55 against Indiana. Again, I think that was another lopsided game. Like, he just hasn't played. Like,
how many? And I wish there was a stat. I'd love to see him. How many games he's got in before the halftime?
Oh, it's not many, man.
Right?
Maybe three all season. So you know what? Like, you brought up that there was national media there. Was Shams there? We had heard that Shams was going to be there.
Well, if he was, I didn't see him. I don't think
I
he
didn't
was
see him
there,
either.
no.
Yeah, I don't see him either.
And we're talking about Shams Charania from the Athletic and Stadium.
Yeah, and we'll also bring up that Vivek Ranadive missed a game with pneumonia. He put it out via Instagram, via the gram, that he had pneumonia. I mean, like, how big of a bummer would that have been? I'm sure he was at home hoping to clinch, but Sean, let's.
I don't think he was like, cool. We'll wait till when I can go attend a game. I don't think he was thinking that way.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he flew up to Portland. Do you think this is just a random? Do you think that the winning this season changes the view of Vivek Ranadive?
Yeah, I would hope so, because again, you can't just heap blame on him and not give him any praise, because he is so, we've talked about it, he's so involved in every decision that's made. It's not like all the good decisions are made, he sits in a room and the only ones he's involved in are the ones that completely go to hell. No, he's involved in every one of them, so he should be celebrated that way. He's very much a part of it. So you could still, even if they're good, I can still understand people saying, I don't want to see that, or I wish that wasn't the case, but it is the case. It's not unique to Sacramento. And yeah, I think it's not to go say it is what it is, but that it is what it is in Sacramento. That they're a team that's going to have a very vocal ownership group and somebody who's got their hands in everything. And it hasn't worked yet. They're reaping the benefit of a lot of it this year. But yeah, he is very, very much involved in the day-to-day or at least in the day-to-day operation decision making of this franchise.
Okay, I'll hit you with this. If the Kings come home on Sunday and they've clinched, which I think at that point Sunday we assume that they will have clinched like 6 different ways, right?
Right.
There's so many different tiebreakers. Then again, maybe they won't. Who knows? Like everything could go wrong and they could still be sitting there. But if they do come in and they clinch or they have clinched, and it's one of those celebration games where, you start seeing the fans chanting and all that stuff, would you be comfortable with how the Sacramento, but with a Rana, Dive, would you be comfortable with that? Would you think that it's something that he had deserved?
No. No.
No?
No, to me that would feel very out of place. Because again, you're celebrating the team's success, Sacramento, those chances. He's part of it. You're celebrating him as part of the fabric of the organization as the owner. I mean, I don't think he needs I don't feel like he needs to raise his own flag or have his own ego stroked for fans to show appreciation. I think they cheer on the team. He'll feel that love. They don't need to necessarily go out of their way to celebrate him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm intrigued. No, I mean, I would like to see him. He's the punching bag when everything goes wrong, and let's be honest. Over the course of the last decade that he's been here, not all things that you hear about Vivek are 100% accurate. A lot of them are taken out of context, or they're used in a way to further someone else's argument or further someone else's reason for why things didn't work out here in Sacramento. And so I think that historically there's been any time that there is a coaching search or a coach gets fired, there's always an element of how much did Vivek involved. And sometimes it's greatly and sometimes it's not. Sometimes Vivek is a voice in the room, but isn't the final voice in the room that actually makes a decision. He's, so I think that there are so many times where he's almost used as a negotiating tool outside of Sacramento to, whether, again, it be whether a coach should get fired or not, or whether they should get more time, or whether this coach should get the job or that coach should get the job, or, there's always something with Vivek. And I think a lot of what we hear about him, there's plenty of truth to what we've heard, but there's also the myth of Vivek, if you will. And sometimes I feel like he does get a bit of a raw deal. I would like to see him celebrated. If they make the playoffs, I would be perfectly fine with Vivek Ranadive walking over and being the guy who lights the beam on one of the final games of the season.
Whoa! Is that a
not the lighting of the beam means anything, like the actual thing, but I think that he should have an opportunity to be celebrated. I wasn't okay when a bunch of randos are walking across the court and a bunch of rich people walking over to go punch the beam, but Vivek, for better or worse, has been the face of it. These other guys, these other characters. I mean, that
was Raj Bethal, right? That was Raj Bethal who was over there.
I appreciate Raj Bethal, but there was also a group with Raj. So that's one of those situations where it's okay, Raj Bethal has been here and he's been a major contributor money-wise, financially. But sure. Vivek is the one that has to take the beating for every season, every losing season. He's the guy that they write about. You never hear, and Raj Bethal really likes Mark Jackson. You don't hear that. So, you know what I mean? So I would be okay if Vivek.
To me, it would just feel kind of unusual, right? No one chants, if you're a Patriots fan, no one's chanting Bob Kraft's name.
No.
You know what I mean? I just feel it'd be unusual for a fan base to show appreciation to an owner that way, because again, you're how you show appreciation to the owner? You buy his product. You wear his merchandise. I think fans do enough there. If they saw him on the street, they might extend a handshake. They might want to take a picture with him. I don't think they're going to spit in his face like a New Yorker to Dan Dolan or something like that. But
what
just
Dolan's
or James Dolan, excuse me. I said
James
Dan Dolan because I have it's just I don't know. I feel like it would be a corny move and a little bit out of the ordinary to do something like that as a fan base. It'd be unexpected. I would have never seen that. Like before they tried to move the team, Joe and Gavin Maloof were like absolutely adored in this town for their and they never really had that. I do remember the Kevin Johnson when they come back from Orlando All-Star Weekend and they've got the agreement in principle and they go arm in arm and extend hands and Kevin Johnson's on the mic and says, "Let's give it up for the Sacramento Kings and the Maloofs." And that was just a way to kind of, because if you did it just for the Maloofs after some of the things that they'd gone through, they probably would have gotten booed even with them staying there. So he disguised it well and they got a nice ovation and people were happy that day. So.
And then we had the one game where they gave Kevin Johnson a token of appreciation, and it was an autograph ball from the team, not a banner. Well,
he's got the thing on the wall in the arena with all the other city council
city council members.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, right? I don't know.
He's like persona non grata now. It's kind
of strange. All right. Yeah, no, it's
that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss that one today. Maybe we do.
I thought the elephant in the room. I thought the elephant in the room, mind you, was going to be a Malik Monk discussion. I really did, because this is another game, and I don't mean to bring up the Timberwolves game again, but another game where Malik doesn't play well. This time had really more of and this is the game where you and I have different versions. I think sometimes of what a bad Malik game is. Like I don't care if he doesn't shoot well. Last night, it was a game he didn't shoot well, and he kind of shot him out of the game. Tried to bring him back in the fourth. Some of the defense was there, but my whole Malik Monk bad games are usually when he's just turning the ball over, and it's like really, really bad. I think last night was one of those games where I was like, even where I said, oh my God, as I even said, you don't need to shoot well. Last night he didn't, and he was really bad. And I think he's really wearing it. Like he's very frustrated by his play over the past few games, and but again, when he doesn't play well, this team has a hard time winning, and there's something weird about that.
I'm gonna say, like, I think we both have varying degrees or varying opinions on what that statement that you just said means. And so over his last 4 games, so he scored 12 points last night, 8 points, and 6 points.
See, there you go. You look at points. I don't. I look at turnovers, assists, and his defensive play.
2, 3, 1, and 3 assists. That's not good enough.
Not good.
Turnovers, not bad. 0-0, and then 2 and 2. But like, I think there's this weird thing where, like, we both think of Malik in a similar way, but just from a different point of view. So you think that he's the most important player, right? Like on this roster.
He's not the best player. Not the best player.
No. He's the most. He's
important for. I say he's the most important for team success when you have your best players rolling the way that they are. Obviously, if your best player has a bad game, that's something different. But I feel like his energy, his swagger, his confidence, his vibe really sets a tone for the Sacramento Kings. It really does. And that has a dramatic impact on the team. And if he goes into a spot where it's not going well, this team has a hard time. Certainly they've been able to win games when he's struggled. But when he doesn't have that type of aura around him, and it's infectious. And when he's rolling, they're rolling. Every time he's playing well, they look like world beaters.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with that. But I'm going to say that when he's not playing well, he's a big reason why they lose. And it's not because...
That's my point. Yeah, that's my point.
No, but I'm gonna.
I know what you're saying too. Like he shoots them out of a game. He takes them out of a game. The turnovers are terrible. No, and I get that. That's what I'm saying. Like they need him to play well. They have to have him play well and again, they're at their best when he's playing well, and when they're not, it's a struggle, man. It is, and that's I completely agree with that.
I think there are plenty of games this season where Malik was not a major factor and they won the game. And so that's where I differ. Like, I think, yes, when he's really good, they're unbeatable. But when he's really bad, I don't know that they can win. And then I'll say this, Sean, the last couple of games, I don't understand what's happening, but DeAaron Fox has stopped being fourth quarter Fox, and he's passing the ball to Malik, and I'm sitting there like, what is happening? Why is DeAaron Fox settling for catch and shoot 3-point jump shots in the final 5 minutes of a game while Malik is running pick and rolls and doing Malik Monk things with Sabonis? It's almost so forced to get Malik going that it's like, what is happening? Like, Malik time came and went. It was like in the late third quarter and early fourth quarter, his time came and went where he's supposed to be impactful. It's time for Fox to go do Fox things, and this team all of a sudden is losing an identity piece at the wrong time and a crucial moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the point of, like, again, I do agree with that to an extent. I'll say, look, Malik has closed a lot of games this season. So it's not like he can still be that player, but I do see Fox giving up the ball quite a bit to him, and it's taking the shot out of his out of the game. So, but I also say, look, I'm not saying that, again, they've won games where he hasn't played well, but it's not a lot. Like, it's a harder game to win. It becomes an instantly harder game to win when he doesn't play well. But
yeah, I kind of
I think they're looking at him as like, I think they look at him and they go, man, whatever it is, whether it be a shooting slump and it affects everything else. I mean, these cross-court passes that sometimes he attempts are just, those are the ones where you cringe because you feel like it's going to be intercepted.
Yeah, there's just some things like where he's hitting people in the stands. Like, looking at the stats, there are a lot of games this season where he's shooting, like, there's like a point break where he shoots. If he's shooting 44.4% from the field, the Kings are X. And if he's shooting below that, that's when it starts to go haywire.
Well, this team is also keenly aware of it too. It's not, it's an observation I've had, but investigating it more, like, everyone knows it. Everyone on that team knows it. Like, they have to get Malik going. They have to have him. It becomes an easier game when he is, and it's a struggle when he's not. And, last night was another example of it. Hopefully Portland can be the slump buster for him.
Yeah. Slump buster. Thank you, Mark Grace, for that term. Okay, so Sean, when we look at the rest of the guys, I mean, first of all, we're not going to see the Kings where they shoot 5 of 29 from three. We're not going to see that.
5 of 27, right? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It's the worst shooting number that they've had in a couple of years, I think. Like, it's certainly the fewest number of threes they've made this year. I know that Minnesota did the whole top block thing, where that's something that we kept hearing. Oh, that they did something different. They top blocked us. That should not have been that big of an issue. This team flat out missed a bunch of 3-point shots, and whether it was Herter or Monk or De'Aaron Fox or Keegan Murray, they just flat out missed. And I kind of wanted more. Harrison Barnes, even he didn't have an outstanding game, but he was at least solid. It just felt like one of those games where if they had one more guy really step up, and of course Herter was in foul trouble. He tried to step up late, finished with 13 points, which is pretty good for how the few minutes he did play because of foul trouble. But the 3-point shot is something we've talked about all season. Keegan's now, what is he, 2 away from tying Donovan Mitchell's record of 187 made 3-pointers. It's the rookie record for most made 3-pointers. Again, he's going to get that record. I don't think we have any question about that. But like, was this just a one-off for all of these guys? Because that's what it kind of felt like. I don't know that it had anything. I mean, it had something to do with Minnesota. I don't think it had nearly enough to do with Minnesota. It was more about the Kings.
Mike Brown talked about that today, where it is something that they have to figure out with this against Minnesota, because they do a really good job of being physical, and you're not quick to respond with physicality on your part. Obviously it comes down to defense, but I felt, looking at the way they harassed basically everyone. They harassed Domantas Sabonis. I think, HB had it going for a little bit, but Keegan looked out of sorts a little because they were kind of pushing him around. I think some of the length really bothered them, especially on the perimeter. Pick and rolls, I mean, Domas they were throwing. I think the guards kind of got a little disjointed at times. I thought some of the stuff they were rolling at Fox was basically designed to kind of disrupt him and kind of let the defense is the offense is gonna feel the defense, and that's kind of what they did, and they did a good job of doing it without fouling, and the Kings were not able to do that. And Mike wants to see more of that physicality early on, and it's certain things that are kind of popping up of late. I think there's a theme of really shitty defense throughout the whole season, but there are some things that have kind of bubbled to the surface recently that they're going to have to address, and I think they hope that they were able to do some of that today. It was a light practice, obviously, before they leave for Portland, and then you've got a day off in between. So certainly some moments to kind of go over and look at. But I think honestly, aside from the magnitude of what last night was, I think Minnesota is just one of those teams, and he compares them just like I have, where Mike Brown compares them just like I have, where I asked him, I said, is there other teams that you've seen do that to you outside of Minnesota? And like, even if you're excusing length, it's like, no, it comes down to those teams like Philly, Boston, Milwaukee, and you can add Minnesota to that list. Only you see Minnesota 3 times this season, and you only see the other two twice, or the other ones twice. So, yeah, it's but again, I think what's encouraging though, there is a silver lining, because it's not like you're getting blown out by that team. I think Minnesota has a basketball right, and you've gone to overtime in another game. The previous game I think was a single digit game, 6 points maybe. That the first of the back to back that they had with them. So it's encouraging that you can go up against a team like that, get pushed around, make them. They slowed him down. That was one big thing. That's what Harrison Barnes was talking about. Like, the pace went really slow. It totally disrupted the way you play your game. It didn't feel like Kings basketball last night, and it didn't really feel like Kings basketball in any of the other previous matchups with Minnesota as well. So I think there's something to it, but I'm not going to deny the fact I think there was a little bit of distraction on the Kings end. Yeah.
How was practice today? I missed practice today just because the weather had turned crazy, and I'm actually really glad now, because there's like an inch of snow on the ground, maybe more.
This was you got a foot. You're gonna have to get out there and start shoveling the driveway.
Yeah, totally bizarre. Out of nowhere. This was not expected. Like, the snow a couple of weeks ago was expected, but this one was not at all.
Most of the attention was given to Mike Brown. Obviously, today was one of those days where the players don't want to be bothered. We made our requests, and we some of them were told no, in terms of these players trying to get to the plane and get out of here. So it's one of those quick ones. It's no slight on anybody. Kessler Edwards spoke, not really much to talk about there, but. Just identifying things in areas of improvements, and just really,
Wait, Mike and Kessler spoke? That was it?
That was it, yeah. We were going to try and get Keegan, but
I'm glad I didn't drive down.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you didn't miss anything. But and again, you can watch the videos. You'll be fine. I actually haven't posted Kessler Edwards yet, just because I don't think there was going to be much learned there. So no slide on him. It was just like he didn't really play a whole lot in that game, and
well, it's not his fault. I mean, he's a new kid.
No, it's not his fault.
Like, yeah, you don't like lose a soccer game by 10-0, and then like interview the kid who played 3 minutes. So
right,
yeah. So
it's all good
when it comes to like I want to investigate that just before we get out of here, like quickly. When they picked up Kessler, he seemed like the player archetype. They wanted to look at a player like him and see what he looks like. And like he'll be on the team next season. Like it's a budget contract. So I'm not saying that like he's just a throwaway. But what I am saying is that we're seeing sort of a version of a player that you might want to go chase, a bigger, more experienced, like maybe a higher level version of Kessler Edwards. He seems like he's really fit in though, and that maybe he's played himself into a slightly bigger role than that next season, but maybe not. Maybe he's just like you're still gonna have him as part of your rotation or back into your rotation, but it certainly is the piece that this team, one or two pieces that this team is missing.
Yeah. I only hesitate there because I feel like he does some things that certainly that not everybody does. He is a little bit more of a defensive player, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. He can do some things with the basketball that most people probably. I feel like if you were to give him more of an extended role, which I'd like to kind of see, to be honest, at some point, how would he do with it? I just don't know that I have a lot of confidence in him compared to other rotational players on the team. But
and that's because he's not
so
been
far
here.
So good. Right, yeah, so far so good. I think that what I would say is I still think there's a lot of curiosity there, and I don't know that that's something you can really depend on. But in the short sample size, he's lived up to probably exceeded some expectations along the way is what I'll say.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's exceeded expectations, and he's shooting 37% as a member of the Kings from three. 47.7% overall, and that's on 1.8 3-point shots per game, which is actually pretty decent. I'm kind of surprised, and even like his rookie season in Brooklyn, he averaged like 2.8 threes per game and shot 53.3%. He's young. He's 22 years old, and I think it's like a really nice gamble, and whether he's part of the main rotation or he's more of like 11 through 15 on next year's roster, I still think you got good value there. And I think it's, again, you're getting to look at a piece that may work for you. And, if you can get a better version of that, a more experienced version, then you do it. But it sure is nice to have more depth and more length like that at the 3-4. Outside of that, Sean, I don't know.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So we learned that Harrison Barnes talked the other day pregame, and like the goal was 50 wins for them, like more than the clinch and more than like,
he did kind of
things
that in,
aspirations. Yeah, that the 50 wins was an actual goal for the team, and I think that's a good one to get especially once you get to 45. I said 45 to me was like that's the attainable goal, and then whatever you get after that, fantastic. And I think that became the attainable goal after the early success. You start moving the goalposts, so to speak. With the is it 7 games remaining? I think you'd have to go 5-2, right? Is that what it looks like?
7 games, you need to go 5-2.
Are you betting on that? You taking that?
I'm just gonna look one last time. Okay, so I think they get to 48. Boom, boom, boom. 48 is Portland.
So you're saying 3 straight?
3 straight without any question, in my mind.
Wow.
Then we get down to you got to split the final 4. The final 4 are the Pelicans, at the Mavericks, home for Golden State, and at Denver. I think that there's 2 wins there, but I'm also, Sean, there's no way I'm going to count on this team to lose 3 games in a row to finish 4 games in a row to finish the season.
Right.
That's not going to happen. This team does not lose, has not had prolonged losing streaks. I think the Pelicans game would be a battle. I think the Mavs game is going to be intriguing because the Mavs are either going to be on the outside looking in or are going to be done at that point. They're going to be done or they're going to be in a dogfight for the final play-in spots. I think the Warriors game is huge because there's potential for you to play them. And then the Nuggets, the last game of the season, that could be a game where we see Denver has pulled away for the number 1 seed, and they sit a bunch of guys. So I'm gonna say yes, Sean. They get to 50.
Yeah, I can see it.
51, right? Like that was what you and I and Brennan had this conversation. I said 51. I don't think they get to 51 now.
No.
But like can they get to 50? I think they can still get to 50.
Yeah, certainly they can. I'm even if I'm being a little conservative here, I think they let's pretend they lose one of the next 3. Maybe they drop one in Portland. Maybe I don't think the Spurs are going to come here and get them. Hopefully that doesn't happen for their sake. But it is an early game. It's a 3:00 game here in Sacramento. So let's say they drop one of those 3. Okay, so now you've got 2 that you've won. Maybe you just chalk up, split the doubleheader
3 and 1
or the back-to-back. Yeah, so if you go, okay, that's 2, 3, pick up. Let's say you win one of the Pelicans or Dallas, but you lose the other. So that's 3. And that gets you to the final game with Warriors and Nuggets. So split those pair, that gets you 4. I think they get 4. I think they get 49.
That's 49.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take 50, you take 49, because I don't think there's any way they lose one of the next 3 games.
Yeah, I mean that would be a little. But again, they're not playing terrific right now, and that's why I say hopefully Portland with them shutting down Dame, maybe that's one of the slump buster that they need. But I don't know, man. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. No, neither one of those teams should have any interest in winning.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like one of those moments where they go in and they take care of business. Like I expect them to take care of business, and then we get to that other phase where, again, Golden State right now at 39 and 37 is 7th. Right. The Pelicans are 8th at 38 and 37. They're half game behind the Warriors. Then we got the Lakers at 37 and 38. The Thunder at 37 and 38. They're tied for the 9 and 10. The Mavericks, as of right now, are 37 and 39 on the outside looking in. Luka is going to try to go for 500. And then you have Portland all the way down at 13 at 32 and 43. Dude, they don't want to win another single game from here on out. They are going to try. Right now, Portland is tied for 1, 2, 3, 4. They're tied for the 5th worst record in the NBA. They don't want to win another game. If they win one more game, they move up to the Wizard and Pacers category and ahead of Orlando. That's like you could potentially go from 5 to like 9 with one win. There's no way, Sean. I'm just but there's also one thing I think we are taking for granted here. Kings tonight, as we record this podcast on Tuesday the 28th, if the Warriors lose to the Pelicans, the Kings have clinched, right? Yep.
You might see some resting of players down the stretch, particularly Domantas Sabonis, maybe Harrison Barnes, DeAaron Fox. And again, no incentive. If you've clinched at that point, you could, find ways to rest different guys. Like, for example, let's say you win Wednesday. Maybe Friday you sit Sabonis and Barnes, especially with the early game with the Spurs on Sunday. You know what I mean? Like there's different moments. And again, you don't need to win any season series with the Blazers or the Spurs. Pelicans will be the game that you're going to have to, suit up everyone for. Mavericks potentially, as you mentioned, the Warriors. Nuggets might be one of those games where you're resting people as well. So that could factor very much into the win-loss category here.
I think so too, but I'm also going to guess that Mike Brown doesn't do that, that he's going to try. No, he's going to.
I would.
He's going to regulate minutes. He's not going to regulate games off. I don't believe that he thinks that games off are a good thing and that he can cut these guys down to 25 to 30 minutes and get to the finish line, rely heavily on Kessler. Maybe we see some Rashawn Holmes here in the final 2 weeks of the season as they try to get ready for the playoffs. Maybe Chimezie Metu gets out of the doghouse.
Is Alex Len ahead of him on the depth chart at the moment?
Is Alex Len all of a sudden ahead of him on the depth chart? Yeah. I'm kind of that opinion. I think we're going to see a reduction in minutes, but I don't think that they'll rest players. I don't think they'll sit players out. I think that they want to have a flow and be a finely oiled machine going into the playoffs. they don't want to take a step back. Like, this isn't a 60-win team. This isn't a team that's been there 3 times in a row and all of a sudden they know how to manage themselves going into the playoffs.
Right.
This is a team that I believe is ready to that they want to win as many games as possible, and they want to show that.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Mike has even alluded to as much in some of the things he said the other day, but I think finding a game or two is going to be. I mean, he held Fox out the other night as a precautionary. Granted, he was dealing with something, but Domas is playing with a broken hand. You know what I mean? And like Harrison Barnes has been kind of Mr. Reliable. He hasn't really had a day off. So I don't know. I'm just saying I could see it. You've got again that early start time on Sunday. If you've got things clinched, that Portland game doesn't matter. I honestly think that Friday game you might see someone sit. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong.
Maybe Sean's wrong. Okay, like Sean, I don't even think that we'll just count that as like the business of basketball.
Business, yeah, okay. That sounds right.
Yeah,
but you got to do the sounder.
The business of basketball. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. The business of basketball, where we're discussing. I think they win 50. Sean thinks they win 49. We're just gonna make some. Brendan thinks they don't win another game. They win 45.
Oh, has he gone dark side on us?
No, I'm just messing with Brendan. Okay, so let's just get to it. Sean, do you have any final thoughts?
I saw John Wick 4 without seeing John Wick 2. Wait, which one did I see? I saw 3. So I went 1, 3, 4.
No, 4.
Never saw 2. Yeah, I saw the 4th one.
Okay. I have not got to see John Wick yet. It's long. I was surprised that it's like 2:47, right?
Yeah, but I think it's probably like 2 hours of fighting. So it's like fight sequence, like probably 2 hours. So I just throw it out there because I know we mentioned a lot of movies. I think I understood like the appeal to it of John Wick. Like it's the first one I really liked. Third one was just like, yeah, okay, I guess. Fourth one, I would say I think I like it, but I think I'm just kind of bored with it now.
Okay. I want to see it. Like I think me and the boys might take off and go see it tonight. I also want to go see the Zach Braff.
Your boys will love it.
Yeah, the Zach Braff movie. I want to go see that.
What's that one?
With what's her name? Puig, his ex-girlfriend.
I don't know. I don't see that one.
You know who I'm talking about? Like Scarlett Johansson is what in Marvel world? Her sister in the Marvel movies.
Oh, I don't watch those.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, man. Sorry, you're gonna have to look this up.
Okay, so Zach Braff. No, I'll have it right now.
Francis Pugh.
Francis
Pug.
Pugh. Yeah,
I don't know. Pugh,
yeah, however you say her name.
That's an unfortunate last name. I'll tell you that.
A good person. That's the new one. A good person, and it's written by Zach Braff, and of course Zach Braff was on Scrubs forever. He also wrote Garden State. Yeah.
How do you do with scary movies?
Oh, I'm not a huge scary movie fan. I do like this Scream. Like we'll watch Scream, but I don't know if I'll make it to the theater. Yeah, you told me.
I went and saw that one. Yeah, I did that, and then I don't know that I would. Because I brought like the Pope's Exorcist. Those Exorcist movies. I'm not a religious person, but I can't get into those. Those things scare the shit out of me. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not into that either. I'm not into the super dark. I'm more into like dark crime drama stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
fun stuff.
Okay, my final thoughts is it's still snowing, and this is absolutely wild because at this point, like it's a lot of snow, and I'm looking out. It's dropped to 41 degrees. It's supposed to be 38 to snow, Sean. So I don't know what's happening here.
Do we need to send you like rations? Are you good?
No, I like the power's still on. Knock on wood. I don't want to have to go get the generator out. That would suck. I think the wife did have to take the Suburban out to go get the little dude from school, but yeah, just bizarre weather. Okay, so let's just finish up here. The Kings need one game, and they don't need one game for them. They don't need just one win. They can get in with a Warriors loss here on Tuesday. They can get in with a win over Portland tomorrow. There also could be some other random game that they could get in on tomorrow. A team losing that, whether it's the Clippers or someone else. So like it's happening. It's the one game with 7 games remaining. There's only one way in which they could not make the playoffs, and it's like really, really complicated. And they would still be in the play-in. They would be like the 7 seed. So they've already clinched a play-in, from what I know, and like it's a good moment. So hopefully we get to see it. Hopefully the Kings shake off their moment from Monday night again in the loss to Minnesota. And hopefully, like, everyone learns something from that moment, because like I thought it was like even the fans didn't know how to react. I thought the whole night was odd and weird, and I hope that that's not something that we see repeated in the playoffs, because that just isn't it's not what we've seen all season long. It's not the Kings' brand of basketball. It's not the fans of Sacramento's brand of fandom or anything else. So outside, we've got, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And
unless you already did.
If you don't mind. Unless you already did, and Sean screws with you, and you accidentally thumbs up twice and screw with all of our numbers. Thanks to Price Picks. Jump on board with the Kings Beat. Become a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat, so we can all go hang out and do playoff stuff. I might even add a few more tiers to the Kings Beat, so we do like
what's that mean?
Tiers. That might mean that like I add some higher end tiers to the Kings Beat where people could jump on board for like a larger subscription and help us get to the playoffs, but they would get something like meet and greet, or like a small setting Zoom where we're like there's like 4 or 5 people, but like people who have been subscribers for a long time, they seem to like what we do. And so I'm sure there are a few out there that wouldn't mind jumping on board for like more, just a different version of the Kings Beat subscription. So
the Tasteful Nudes version.
Yeah, the Tasteful Nudes version. No Tasteful Nudes. But what Sean's talking about, yeah. And then if you want to become a sponsor of the Kings Beat, jump on board there too. Again, Prize Picks has been cool, and I'm sure we have some other things coming up. But there's opportunities to be a sponsor here at the Kings Beat. So we'll have Brendan back later in the week, probably looking at a Thursday podcast. Hopefully Thursday podcast
that's opening
is
day.
More cheery. Oh, opening day of baseball, which I
can
talk about how pathetic the A's are. They can't. They're so bad they can't even. They're starting to tell they're not going to keep Christian Pache. And of course they're like, hey man, we think he's a big league player and that he's going to work it out somewhere and he's going to be special. It's just not going to be here. And it's like, okay, well, you're a like broke ass franchise with no talent at all, and he can't make it there. So I'm not sure what's going to happen somewhere else. So good luck with that. Yeah, they're a mess. They're a mess going into the season. They've been a mess for a long time, and I don't think that this is going to get any better. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, Sean. So that's what I think of the A's.
Gotcha. Well, I don't think much of the Giants either, so I think we're both in for some gloomy baseball season, but I hope I'm wrong with the Giants. I just don't have
I'm super close to go Padres. Go Padres.
Oh, they're going to be good.
Close.
Padres are going to probably be the best team in baseball.
Well, I've told you that's my alternative team. I've been saying it for over a year. If the A's leave, my alternative team has been San Diego. Beautiful San
Super
Diego.
Padres.
Padres.
Superchargers, but I say you go Super Padres now.
It was even before, though. Even before they started going Super Padres, I was all in on the Padres. So yeah. they got Bob there. So
sure do.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. We'll be back on Thursday. Brennan should be back. We'll have another lively discussion. Again, hopefully the Kings have clinched by that point, and we're not talking about more like variants on clinchmas and Hana clinch or
Hana clinch. That was weird.
Or quasi clinch, like hopefully Kwanzaa clinch. Hopefully we're not talking about one of those things on the next Kings Beat podcast. So for Fox 40. Sean Cunningham. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. See you very soon.